EDUCAS WJEC specification asks us to apply Aquinas Natural Law to the ethical issue of abortion. This is often a misunderstood area of the specification, and it is important that students understand that the purpose of an apply question is to prescribe an area of practical ethics so that the workings and function of natural law in practice can be demonstrated. The ethical issue of abortion involves questions about whether or not the act of terminating a pregnancy is the destruction of a human life. There is a commandment in divine law from Exodus that instructs us we should not kill. The primary precepts instruct us that we should preserve life and reproduce, and so it seems that to perform an abortion is wrong if the cellular material within the womb constitutes a human life, or maybe even a potential human life. However, we also must balance this with our duty to preserve the life and reproductive capacity of a woman, as well as any duty we have to uphold the other precepts, none of which may be broken or frustrated. It is tempting when debating the issue of abortion for us to look at the reasons for or potential consequences of aborting or not aborting. For example, if the woman has been raped, is carrying a fetus with a significant defect, or simply does not want to be pregnant. However, we must exercise caution because these can lead us down a teleological or consequentialist road, whilst natural law is more deontological. If abortion is wrong, then it does not matter too much what the consequences are. What matters is the action itself. Potentially, when we look at the plight of the woman, the infringement to her rights, or even the suffering that continuing with a pregnancy might lead to, we could be persuaded to believe that an abortion is right. However, this is an apparent good. It seems good, but it leads us all away from our telos, to do good and avoid evil, to achieve fellowship with God. The real good in this situation is to ensure that we uphold the primary precepts, and to do this we should establish if the pregnancy constitutes a human life. If it is, then to abort frustrates the precept that forbids killing, and therefore it is wrong. It is not easy to establish the humanity of the material in a pregnancy. A zygote or blastocyst does not look like a human baby and performs none of its functions, so it would be easy to suggest that at this early stage there's no humanity there. A 6-week-old embryo may contain more of the qualities that we would look for in a human, and by 12 weeks a fetus develops more and more of these qualities. However, it cannot survive without the protection of the womb until it is closer to 24 weeks. Even then, it is not a given that the fetus would survive, and the amount of medical support needed is significant. It is the duty of humans to reproduce. Therefore, to frustrate reproduction at any stage of this development is an evil according to natural law. This would be the case even if the pregnancy did not involve a human life. But is it killing? The Roman Catholic Church have decided that it is. The genetic material is present at conception, even if the zygote has not yet implanted in the womb. Therefore, it is a human with human DNA and the potential to grow into nothing else other than a human child. Therefore, to abort breaks the primary precept that forbids killing. Even if the zygote were not a human life, to terminate the material that has the potential to become a human being frustrates the primary precept to reproduce. Yet, what if the woman's life hangs in the balance? What if the continued pregnancy is certain to kill her? This is difficult because the doctors have a duty to preserve her life as well as the unborn life that she carries. It is always wrong to deliberately kill, so it would be wrong to act to kill an unborn child, but it would also be wrong to fail to act to save the life of an innocent woman. Here there is a conflict of precepts, and this is where the law of double effect can be useful. It would never be acceptable to deliberately kill the fetus, but in the case of an ectopic pregnancy, where the fetus is implanted in a fallopian tube rather than the womb, failure to act will kill both women and fetus. The fetus cannot survive. Here, the removal of the affected tube would save the life of the mother, but would have the double effect of killing the fetus. Since the interior act or intention of the act of removing the tube is to save a life, that is the act that is to be judged. It is not acceptable to simply abort the fetus to save the tube, because the intention of that act would be to kill. In addition, if the woman has cancer of the uterus during her pregnancy, the uterus could be removed to save her life, thus killing the pregnancy, and those involved would be blameless. There are those who argue that we should go further and be prepared to save the tube or the uterus if removing the fetus would save the life of the mother and her ability to reproduce in the future. However, divine law says that we may not do evil for the sake of a good consequence. This means that we may not intend to kill for any reason at all. In Aquinas' example of double effect, he allows killing in self-defense. This means that a person is held blameless for killing if the intent is to save one's own life in accordance with the primary precepts, and killing of the assailant is accidental. It might be that a person knows exactly that their action will kill, but provided that is not the intention, they're blameless. In the case of removing a fetus to save a tube, the intent is to remove the fetus. Even though it might be for a good reason, the intent is clear, and so it is unacceptable. Others argue that failure to allow abortion is an infringement upon a woman's rights. In usual cases, the precept of reproduction is a precept that a woman can engage in voluntarily, but in the case of rape that results in a pregnancy, a woman's right to choose is taken away. For scholars like Howard Keynes, if abortion can effectively take place to save the life of a mother, then we should allow it to take place to preserve the reproductive rights of the woman too. However, this still raises the question of intention, as abortion is never acceptable within natural law. It is merely a side effect of the positive act of saving a life. A significant cause for concern for those who campaign for a woman's right to choose is that the woman's well-being is sacrificed for the sake of some cells that are not even a fully formed child, at a stage when it has little to no hope of survival outside of the womb. This means that a woman's health and future are sacrificed because of the actions and legislation of men. It seems unjust, and so to rectify this injustice, many argue that abortion should be available to all who need it. Natural law gives all moral agents the skills to cope with these kinds of hardships. The virtues, when practiced, enable a woman who does not want to have a baby to show agape or compassion towards the child. That love, whilst not the same as family love or friendship, means that the woman can show mercy to the child who is also innocent and treat them with charity and concern as they would do for any other human. The virtues of fortitude and prudence will help the woman to make the courageous and wise decision to act in accordance with the precepts, and the virtue of justice shown in her and others should mean that society should act to ensure that both woman and child are treated fairly and not disadvantaged by the actions of others. She should not lose her livelihood or her future because of an unwanted pregnancy. This ideal sounds positive. However, some might argue that this kind of self-sacrifice can never be required of a woman when it is never required of a man, and this leads to injustice for women in society. The decision to demonstrate such virtue is laudable, but can be described as above and beyond the sacrifice that can ever reasonably be expected of a human who may die from her pregnancy or is pregnant in exceptionally difficult circumstances.